Acosta not only nabbed his first win of the season in Canada last week, he brought himself to the top of the point sheet. Both of the level motorsports drivers have yet to finish outside of the top five in all four rounds thus far. It looks as though any single off week for either of them will potentially create an insurmountable gap. Can they keep up the torrid pace here at Imola? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 5 of the PRL GTE Sportscar Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Ossian Buhaka. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beer. Imola has held some very decisive races in the PRL. Surprise wins, bold strategies, and breakout victories have all been a part of this league's history here. Let's hop down to our track guide to see why this place seems to stand out. Welcome to the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo e Dino Ferrari, but most race fans know this place as simply Imola. This circuit in the northern part of Italy has seen some of the highest highs and lowest lows in motorsports history. The various tragedies that have marred the track left no choice but to alter it in the name of safety. While it originally featured mostly fast, sweeping corners, its modern 3-mile or 5-kilometer version is punctuated by tricky chicanes and incredibly technical turns. iRacing includes the Grand Prix layout and a moto version, which adds one more chicane to the front stretch. Tamburello is perhaps the most notorious of the corners for claiming the life of multi-time world champion Ayrton Senna when it was still a single breathtaking turn. Now the Triple Apexer not only offers potential passing opportunities, but catches out drivers quite frequently. While heavy braking zones are everywhere, because few places allow the cars to get up to speed, overtaking is generally seen as an exercise in frustration. As if to almost counteract this quality, the track itself is situated in a gorgeous public park and sends the drivers through the beautifully calming Italian countryside. It also includes a fair bit of elevation change in which the track is split between the higher up back half and the lower first portion. It's no wonder that this place still proves popular with drivers and fans in spite of its difficulties in history. The Tifosi keep returning each and every time the sound of engines roar among the trees, and who can blame them? Really is a beautiful place here in a park to hold a race here in Italy, one of the countries renowned for motorsports, Ossian. But let's talk a little bit more about the stats of this place and what this means for this round.
Well, what this means is some 5 kilometers or so of wonderful race circuit these people have to navigate, Joe. 17 turns, 3 miles, just under 5 kilometers, 4.9 to be exact. 40 kilometers east of Bologna, that's 25 miles, a beautiful racing circuit. It has seen relatively few changes over the years to its layout. It's very undulating, very fast, and at some places deceptively slippery. It has high curves on the Variante Alta chicane, we'll be referring to that as Alta, on the back end of the track, and it has some of the most difficult corners with any car to navigate, such as Piratella and of course the famed Agua Minerale, which, despite its beautiful name, just means mineral water, Joe.
Yeah, it sounds simple enough when you say it that way, but I can tell you driving it is definitely not simple. But as always, today's race is brought to you by SIMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring organizations, companies, manufacturers, teams, and drivers together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. They're also bridging virtual and real motorsports by providing a network between these two, involving sim racers, real drivers, teams, managers, engineers, and of course, motorsport fans alike. You can find out more about how you can get involved at simsa.net. Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. So, championship underway, and this will mark the halfway point in the season after this race is over. Abner Acosta, a scant 3 points over Bruno Asturi, who has two victories to Abner's one now. Paulo Munoz is still riding on their heels, but continuing to fall back. He's the other one who's taken a victory. And so, of course, they naturally hold the top three spots. Don Squirek and Michael Ross in a very close fight for fourth round out our top five in the driver's standings. Ossian has the update on the team's championship, however.
Yes, indeed, I do, Joe. Level Motorsport with their AAA team has been Class A all throughout this season. Abner Acosta, Bruno Asturi, Alexis Serbo leading the championship by what looks like decisive 64-point gap over Punto CL Racing Blue, Calvin Mees, and Eisler. RSR Esport by G Performance, Munoz, Pfeffer, and Hordel in P number 3. Then it's Punto CL Racing Red, Ruiz, Pasigalubo, and Avilia Gach. And last but not least, on the top 5, Radicals Online Turn Racing, Javi Utreras and Mateus Narciso, part of that duo as well. And next, I think, Joe, it is a fine time indeed to move on to the race details.
Is. So our regular viewers have already heard a lot of this plenty of times, but if you're new to this series, it's round 5 out of 10, as I mentioned. There's the four different makes of cars they are allowed to use in the series. These are all GTE class cars that they are able to choose from. And they have a 60-minute race that they will run, which includes one pit stop needed for fuel. It's an open setup series, so they can tweak it to their liking, and that can come in handy in those teams championship as drivers share that info amongst each other. They've got an incident cap, which includes a penalty at 13 incidents and then a complete disqualification at 20 incidents. Considering how many chicanes are on this track, that could be a factor today. There's your bonus points as well at the bottom, which includes the pole, which they're fighting for right now. But if you're looking to take advantage of GSRC's over 1 million global monthly impressions, from official series sponsorships to commercial placements, we have advertising options customizable to suit your company's needs. Follow the link in the description below to learn more. That qualifying, by the way, currently has Paulo Munoz up at the top. Wonder if he's looking to try and get a second win here, help his team back up into the championship. Rodrigo Mies, who was looking very good in the warm up, is currently holding the outside of the front row.
Yes, indeed. And in P number 3, it's Michael Ross who was saying, he was lambasting this track a little bit. And I say lambasting because he said he has a feeling it's going to get a little bit woolly, Joe.
Yeah, well, and we've seen it at races here before, both in this series and other series. That first lap always seems to cause problems. Now, granted, we've talked a lot about it in this season and the previous season, the orange zone, which they've extended to the first whole lap. I wonder if that'll help calm it down a little bit this season. If maybe we won't quite see as many problems since drivers will already kind of be on their guard.
Yeah, I hope so. It is track suited naturally for some first lap shenanigans, sadly. So, Tamburello, when you come through there with cold tires and too wide or even three wide at times, and it's a triple apex corner, as was said in the track guide. So, it's a difficult place to navigate through, even more so when you consider the fact that you got those sleeping policemen, those curbs, high curbs on either side of the corner, meaning that you can't really run too wide without risking to damage your floorboard or damage your splitter or damage your car in general. So, you can't really allow for extra room there. But that's why I like that corner. It is one of the very few ultra precise corners that are left in the world, as we see Paulo Munoz finishing one more lap and move on to Anderson Schmid.
Now, one that I've got my eye on right now that, to be fair, we've been slagging on a little bit is Christian Eisler, who's up to fourth in the qualifying. He has not shown a lot of pace recently. He's in the Porsche now. I think he may have actually changed cars since we last looked at him. I'll have to double check that since we got some information to the side
No,
here
he
for that.
hasn't.
Oh, interesting. Okay, well, the 727, I guess, just buckled down and has found something. Now, granted, still 5 minutes left in the qualifying, so things could still change around, but this is awful late in the game right now for him to be overtaken or see something drastically change.
Yeah, Neisler, he's finding some good pace. I wonder if he's found more time to practice or whether it's a case of finding a good setup for this track. This Imola is not usually known as a Porsche track per se. It's got that weight balance way up in the back, meaning that it won't be good on fast direction changes. Where it will be good is on the slow corners. But maybe Eisler has found something in the car in the setup, and maybe he's just finding this car to his liking. Either or, he's sitting in a good fourth place. And the two guys I'm looking at right now, Abner Costa and Bruno Asturi, they are once again behind each other on the racetrack on the main straight. There you can see them with Asturi leading the duo and Acosta in the second place on that pack, but in third place now in qualifying, so managing to improve to 138.1. Once again, team tactics from those guys. I wonder if it's gonna be Asturi receiving the draft next time out.
He's currently ahead, so and that lap didn't count for him, so that must have been his quick one. But he really won't want to slow down this time, especially if he's on a good one, unless he makes a mistake to try and let his teammate by. Otherwise, he's just not going to get any sort of help here. Acosta now up to the inside of the second row with that last lap as we watch Hilton cross the line. Looking through to see Christopher Pfeffer seems to have come back to the fore as well. He's been kind of mired down much farther in the pack lately, and he's up to 7th right now. This is Russo in 16th this lap as he crosses the line. Another driver having problems with the bounds of the court. It's
Yeah,
Eisler
that's a very good time. Yeah, and another thing we managed to not mention earlier on is that we have a new pole sitter in this race, a provisional pole sitter, and the first man to go under 138 in this qualifying, and that is Rodrigo Mies from Chile, the crowd favorite, taking the provisional pole position. And wouldn't that be quite interesting if he manages to hold on to that one? So, in general, a very interesting qualifying so far. We have Mies, Munoz, 1 and 2, then we have Acosta. I say only in P number 3, the leading level motorsport driver, Asturi in P number 6. So that's very, very interesting prophecy for this race.
And a story up to 4th. That last lap was his quickest yet. So he's going to jump Eisler. Acosta didn't go faster. In fact, he's taking it down to pit lane, and he might be out of time here. Now, it looks like he's coming back out. I take that back. So he's going to try and get one more lap in, but it's going to be awful tight for him to start a flyer. So we watch Ted Lowendick currently sitting down in 22nd, trying to see if he can get that Ferrari a little bit higher. This is Uribe now on screen with a very bright new paint scheme on that Porsche.
Yeah, that's a great scheme. And also Cal Guin coming across the line. Will he improve? No, he will not. So hooray. So Cal Guin still sitting on 8th place at the moment. Cal Guin just 4 milliseconds off Christopher Pfeffer in 7th place and just 6 milliseconds ahead of Don Squirrel. So it's pretty close there in P7, 8, and 9 at the moment as they get ready for their last final few qualifying laps. Squirrel here coming across the line will not improve, but this is his last attempt at a qualifying lap, and he desperately wants to get higher up the order. Only 9th at the moment, but he has 2 positions, as said, within 100 of a second.
And nice because he's coming to the line now, and he was pushing out of that last corner. Is this going to be faster? No, he had an off track, so he's going to have to go around one more time. Bruno Asturi, not able to improve, stays in that 4th place. I see Christopher Pfeffer going to be the next one up. He is out of Ravazza. He's got a 38.5 as his quickest lap, and he's got 2/10 to make up to try and overtake 6th place here. As he comes down to try and set a new time. Oh, and it's going to be quicker, a 38.3, and it's 5/1000 shy of beating Michael Ross.
Yeah, that's awful. Acosta also coming across the line, 151.7, and he has time for one more lap, I think, after this one. So those guys are leaving it all to the last dying second. Some of them already pitting after P7, so not gonna improve. But Acosta, he is still out there on the track. And Acosta, he's receiving some draft from Andres Espinosa at the moment as he's heading towards Villeneuve, the second chicane on the track, as we watch Russo coming across the line, and he doesn't improve either. So the checkered flag flies, but still a few moments left in this qualifying, not decided quite yet, Joe.
We're at going very wide on the exit of Ravazza, kicking up some dirt in the process. Did he get an off track for that one? He's looking to try and take 5/1000ths quicker, and he goes fastest of his race. That'll put him up to eighth, one position improvement for him. Christian Eisler, the next to the line. He comes off the final corner. Looks like he intends to try and finish it. He wants to get onto those front two rows. Can the 727 improve on that 38.2? He can by about a tenth, and that will put him in fourth.
Yeah, and Rodrigo Mies, he's on what could be a parade lap here, 38.874, another sub 38 or 37.874, excuse me, another sub 38 will not improve, but will solidify his pole position unless Abner Acosta finds something on his final lap. Look at him getting the draft onto the start finish line. Espinosa just ahead of him. Espinosa will stay there. Can Abner Acosta improve? He's got 137.832 to beat. Here comes Abner Acosta across the line, 37.9. He goes to P number 2, but does not beat the Chilean.
Oh, there was less than a tenth between them in the end. That's going to complete our qualifying. Our order is set, so let's go through that starting grid here today for round 5. Rodrigo Mies will be on the pole with Abner Acosta, looking to take win number 2 in a row. Can he extend that lead over his teammate? Paulo Munoz will be starting P3, with Christian Eisler returning to form and starting in 4th. Bruno Asturi, unusually down in 5th. He's got some ground to make up on his teammate, and Michael Ross will be starting in 6th position. Christopher Pfeffer, P7 for him, will be followed by Skorek to the outside of row 4. Then you've got Horatio Calquin starting 9th, and Lucas Bacigalupo will be starting in 10th.
Laufar Russo 11th, and alongside him will be Juan Rivas Brea in 12th position. Javi Utreras 13th, Felipe Luis 14th, Nick Wittehag 15th, Ignacio Hortal 16th, that's row number 8. Pablo Valenzuela Uribe 17th, Luis Paim Jr. 18th. Then rounding out your top 20 will be Andres Espinosa and Eduardo Avila Gach.
Miguel Lopez Torres starts 21st, followed by Ted Lowendick in the 22nd spot. Inside of the next row is Anderson Schmidt, with Matt Hilton starting 24th and Stacy Dunnigan in 25th. All 28 drivers had times in, so Kenny Rodriguez, James Nunn, and Jason Rimkus will round out our 28 car field today. And with that many cars out there, let's get a little bit PBS here, Aussie, and let's put ourselves in the shoes of our viewers. What can they do if they want to follow a driver that they don't see on screen?
They can, of course, go to gsrc.tv. That's gsrc.tv on their browser, mobile device, or their tablet, and check out our live timing and scoring and see just how well their favorite driver is doing in this race show.
That race is getting ready to start for 60 minutes around here. And as I mentioned, Ossian, I wonder if this is going to be more of a strategy race today, because we've seen it in the past at this track that getting that track position is all important. So will that make the drivers have to start to think outside the box?
Maybe more inside the box, as that is where you will be pitting. But fuel saving is gonna be a factor here, definitely. You got so many places you can save fuel in. You can lift and coast to Piratella, you can lift and coast to Agua Minerale, you can lift and coast in the chicane. So got so many places you can save fuel. And if you can't find a clear overtaking opportunity, why wouldn't you save fuel and try to leapfrog someone on the pit stop? Maybe we will see some early stops. Maybe we will see some unusual strategies, as you mentioned. We'll have to wait and see. We have a 1 hour race on our hands after all, and a short warm-up lap, which these drivers will take from the exit of Alta all the way to Rivazza. But another talking point, and this is a real talking point: can Rodrigo Mies handle the pressure?
Yeah, that's a good point with the way he's been racing this season, and especially considering he's had pace in qualifying. This is not the first time we've seen him do very well in quali, but he's got to capitalize on it. Speaking of that warm-up lap, they're not going to have a lot of time to warm up because 77 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface right now is relatively cool for our drivers. So even if they did want to try and weave and brake to get the tires up to temp, they'll probably still be a little chilly. So who's going to be able to manage those cold brakes and cold tires down into Tamburello as the pace car peels off? Mies has control. Abner Acosta to his outside, waiting for the green flag. And green flag is out. Mies is off like a shot. In fact, he leaves Abner Acosta behind to have to deal with Paulo Munoz behind him. Those two going to try and sort out second place as they go side by side down into Tamburello for the first time. Are we going to keep it clean? Everybody braking. Asturi coming in hot and managing to take a position to get behind his teammate. Back behind all of them. I'm not seeing any spins yet. I think we're good.
We are good through Tamburello. I can confirm that show everybody, the entire 28 car field making it through Tamburello. Now, will they make it through Villeneuve? That's another question. Another difficult corner. It goes fast in, then you're going in slow out. But I'm not seeing any significant accidents whatsoever. There's a couple of cars going a little bit wide and throwing up some sand in the air, but otherwise we are clean and good and racing at Imola.
Out of the woods yet. Still have half this first lap to go as now they plunge down towards Aqua Minerale. Your leader is Mies. Munoz up to second start.
Accident further back, we can go that later, but yeah, there's a couple of cars out. So at Piratella corner, that's Paulo Valenzuela Uribe as well as Luis Pine Jr. from the midfield. So not quite clean.
Didn't get away with it totally. Now through Alta, though. Mies ahead of Munoz. Acosta falls back to third with that pass into the first corner. Oh, we got another problem.
Basicalupo. Yeah,
Oh.
Basicalupo and Bach have spun out and they have dropped all the way to the back.
So we'll try and get to that replay in a little bit, but we're now back onto the front stretch to complete lap one. Those two teammates in the yellow Fords, Acosta and Asturi, starting to lose a little bit of touch with Munoz at this point. Behind them, don't count out Christian Eisler, but he's on his rear guard currently. Michael Ross is applying pressure.
Yeah, and there was a big wreck on Rivas corner as well. No need to go to it now, but Javier Treras, Juan Rivas Brea involved in that one. So they were dropping way back. Rafael Russo as well as Horacio Calquin have been involved in the last corner incident. So we got the first half through cleanly, and then Imola things started to happen to these drivers racing at Imola. But back at the front, we still have some good racing going on, and most importantly, Rodrigo Mies has managed to hold on to the lead ahead of Paulo Munoz, Acosta, Asturi, and Eisler, as well as Ross. Those guys are forming the leading six-car pack, and look at the gap already, Joe, between Ross and Pfeffer, 6 and 7.
Yeah, if we could get a wide shot here on Ross, Pfeffer is already 2.7 seconds behind. That 66 has a ways to make up. There you can see, can't even get to the cars behind. Now, finally, they come over the hill, trying to chase down our leaders who are already through Alta. And Don Squirek, who started exactly where he sits right now, is trying to hold on to Pfeffer. See if he can maybe ride his way up to the leaders. We currently watch Eisler, who has dropped off a little bit himself from both Asturi and Acosta. Those two definitely riding information right now.
Yeah, they are. They definitely are riding information at the moment. Nobody is anxious to do anything at this moment in time. Mies goes fastest on the second lap around, and behind them, yeah, it's a little bit touch and go right now. It's a little bit of watching and playing the waiting game at the moment.
Where he goes by Acosta. So, those two swap around, and that was just an easy braking maneuver. Spoke too soon, saying that they're flying information, and then they move around very, very quickly. So maybe we'll see if Asturi has the pace to try and catch up to Munoz. Again, of this group, Munoz, Asturi, and Acosta are the only three that have won so far this season. Mies yet to take a victory. As they approach Piratella, that gap between Ross and Pfeffer stays about the same, not missing much there. I think we've got a chance to go look at the replays. I know Uribe was involved in one of the first ones. I think that was in Piratella. Number 23 found himself in the wrong spot on the track. Let's see if we can figure out what happened with him.
Yeah, so This is all the way from the start of lap number one. Uribe, he's a little bit weird at the start, so you can see him being quite slow as they head off, and then heading into turn number one, you can see all the cars dancing around, but this is Uribe coming into Tamburello, and you can see him just taking the inside line, defending his position, all nice and true and clean, heading in there, no problems so far, and no problems to the corners either. And spoiler alert, there will be no problems until they reach Piratella either, so you can take a time to enjoy these sides of these cars driving around to Villeneuve and on towards Tosa as well. But Uribe, he will be having some problems as they come into Piratella corner, which is the next one after this hill. And once you come into Piratella on lap number one, the problem with that corner is that you can't see the entry properly. You can only see incidents only when it's too late. You have very little time to react, and here we go. He gets punted from the back, spins around, another car off there as well, Uribe. And then we want to move on to
Lupo,
Basica
I think.
Lubo.
Yeah.
Yeah, here we go. Basica Lubo into Variante Alta, and he gets hit by Don Eastberg as they come into the corner. A little bit of punt. You can see very close racing, and as they exit the corner, he bad entry, and then everybody tussles up, and Basica Lubo spins around, a couple other cars involved, and Javi Utreras is the next one you're gonna go on to from here, because Utreras avoided those guys, got a slowdown penalty, and into Rivazzi, you can see what happens. He loses it on the grass, and just goes across the grass and straight to the track, and boom, 3-car incident there.
Florida driver really got a lot of damage from that. That was Ruiz that ran into him. We watched his onboard just there. Significant front end damage to his Ford, but thankfully looks like he's still going. So maybe not as bad as we imagined. We come back to our leaders, and Mies still is ahead of Munoz. The gap has not changed much between those two. But Bruno Asturi, even though he has swapped spots with his teammate, it seems like that ploy isn't paying off a whole lot. He's about a second and a half behind Munoz right now and continuing to lose little bits and pieces.
Yeah, Mies and Munoz are right now controlling the pace and controlling this race. Mies, however, I don't think he's finding enough gap to his liking to the back of him, because he's got Munoz right behind him, and I don't think Mies likes that situation in particular, that he's got Munoz so close. I think he would want about 1 second between them at least. So Mies, I don't think he's saving fuel at the moment at all. He's just trying to get away. You got Munoz trying to follow Mies as much as he can through those high-speed corners, and then behind them you got Asturi, Acosta, getting a little bit separated right now, and the level racing guys are not looking as good as they have looked through the early parts.
Battle for 13th was quite good and still quite good, but it had Ruiz in it, and he spun himself into the wall. In fact, he's just left the session, so he is our latest DNF, unfortunately, despite surviving that frightening first wreck. Gone once again, but we ride on board with Anderson Schmidt, who's at the back of this trio fighting for P13. That's Dunnigan through the windshield that you can see directly ahead in the Ferrari, and that's Uttahag that is up at the front of it in the number 19 Porsche.
Yeah, and Anderson Schmidt, he's lost a couple of positions in this lap. He was 12th at the start of it, but you can see how quickly situations can change here at Imola. He's already 14th, but he still has chances to come back into this race. I'm not seeing any damage in his car so far, so there shouldn't be any intimidating factors. But he should be getting a little bit closer, because once if these guys start battling ahead of him, we often talk about if these guys start battling, but that is such an important thing. Racecraft, reading the race and reacting correctly. With the Haag and Dunnigan, if they get into a tussle, Schmid wants to be right behind them so he can save fuel, so he can make most of the bad situation. If you can't get past, then do the next best thing. And behind them, we got an interesting guy actually in 15th place. That's Lucas Basicalupo, and he's trying to catch up to that trio ahead of him. And remember, Basicalupo, he's by no means a driver who belongs to a 15th place. He's a fast driver, but he, as we saw on the replay in first lap number 1, he wasn't so fortunate as to make it through without any damage.
So he's got a lot of work to do from here on out. And the good news for him is, well, we're only 10 minutes into a 60-minute race. So there's plenty of it to try and improve his position. Now, as we were watching all of that, we don't need to go to the replay of it, but Eisler was overtaken by Ross for fifth. It was just an easy slipstream pass up to Tamburello. Michael now setting his sights on Acosta and Asturi, but he's got a ways to go to get up to them because it's 3.3 seconds from P5 to P4 as we continue to watch the 84 Bacigalupo cycle through. This is Ross on screen now, and that is the blue and red Porsche of Christian Eisler. Good qualifying. Fourth place has started to crumble a little bit. He's down to sixth already. Is his race pace suffering?
It could be a race pace, or it could be just a careful start. Maybe he's just trying to get into grips with his car. I'm not seeing any incidents where he's really involved, but he has definitely dropped back from the likes of Acosta and Asturi and so on. But then again, if you drop back from the level motorsport guys, that's no shame. Michael and Ross, he's finding race pace, he's finding solid ground right now, and maybe Eisler can draft him and find a little bit of consistency from there. Because you got Don Squirrel behind them and Christopher Pfeffer as well, and I don't think Eisler wants to fall into the hands of those two guys. So he definitely needs to stay in the pace that Michael Ross is setting at this moment.
Battle we were watching between Schmidt and Dunnigan. Well, Dunnigan handed it over on a silver platter when he fell off track. That was at Villeneuve. He's actually come back in a bit of a fray right now. There he is on screen. He's the middle car in the Ferrari, the dark Ferrari, and behind him, that is Espinosa putting a lot of pressure on, but he's focused ahead because that's Luis Paim Jr. in the number 17 in the BMW as they go through Aqua Minerale, and he gets a fantastic exit, keeping himself safe from Dunnigan.
Yeah, he is, and you saw how wide Paim Jr. was going through Piratella earlier on, and that's how Dunnigan got close, but there's nothing you can really do, even if you get close in Aqua Minerale, because it's not a brave man who passes there, or indeed a woman, it's a foolish person who passes there. And Dunnigan is not foolish, he decides to stay back at this moment in time, and letting Luis Paim Jr. Get away with it at this moment. Espinosa behind them, and Ken Rodriguez as well, a couple of seconds away from that battle pack. Actually, talking about Aqua Minerale as a corner briefly, just want to mention, you mentioned the incident.
Sorry, Asturi is off. I think he got the wall as well. Maybe he avoided it. If we get the replay, it happened just now out of Villeneuve. He was ahead of his teammate still. Here, it's going to happen right here. Oh, just locked him up. Oh, he did a good job of keeping it out of the barriers.
Yeah, 2-foot save here from Bruno Asturi, and you can see the onboard here, Joe.
No, it was the exit. I was going to say, was it the head curb? And no, just drifted wide. The Level Motorsports driver finds himself making a mistake, a critical one potentially, allowing his teammate back through, and with quite a bit of a gap to him, 3.3 seconds. That's the farthest apart we've seen those teammates all race long.
Yeah, and that's also going to allow Michael Ross into a fortunate position where Michael Ross now finds himself, instead of being all alone and trying to get away from Christian Eisler, he's now having a draft. And he's not only having a draft, he's having the draft of the man who's been perhaps the fastest driver of the early season. That's Bruno Asturi. So he's in a very, very good position at this moment if Bruno can keep it on track. Michael Ross suddenly finding himself, hey, maybe I can fight for fourth place here. And now Asturi has a decision to make. Does he push hard, try and get back behind his teammate, or does he realize his current situation and try to maybe, get to grips with the car once again? Because oftentimes, Joe, after a mistake, you can make the mistake of, and I say mistake, of pushing even harder to get that time back.
His tires are no doubt a little bit heated up from that long slide that he had to get it woed up as Ross stays right behind him. These are both Fords that we're watching try to sort out this fourth position. And behind them, don't forget about Christian Eisler. Not really an attacking range, but of course, if those two begin to change things significantly, we're going to watch from his perspective. A little bit of a bad exit, though, coming out of Aqua Minerale for Christian Eisler.
Yeah, and that's the corner I wanted to talk about initially. There is a reason why some people take a bad exit from there, and that is you want to avoid the off track at all costs, because that is notorious for giving easy off tracks. And what does this league have? What do we have at Precision Racing League? We have a 13 incident limit before you get a stop and go, and 20 incident limit before get a disqualification. Now, in racing, you sometimes have incidents like 2 axes for spinning out or 4 axes from hard contacts. You want to have some leeway in there. You want to have some spare, some wiggle room. But at Imola, with incidents, you don't have that wiggle room if you keep going very wide at the extra fuck minerale. And the thing is, you can gain 1 or 2 tenths at the exit easy if you go just wide through the exit. But you can get an off track and you can get a slowdown quite easily if you do that consistently. So that's something the drivers have to be aware of as well.
Which James Nunn had to slow down as he cut Alta. Don't need to go to it, and that cost him 2 positions to both the Lopez Torres and Nunn. Oh, wait a minute. That had the slow down, so I must have misseen. Meanwhile, we're up in 10th place. Here is a driver who has been making up a lot of spots during this race. Lowendick started 22nd and is currently 11th. Excuse me, currently 10th. And Eduardo Gotch has kind of been following him too. He started 20th and is currently 11th right now. So these two kind of taking advantage of all the drama we saw on that opening lap, snatching up some positions, and have been in no mood to give them back yet.
No, not at all. I mean, all the way from outside of top 20 or just within top 20 to the borders of top 10. That's a very good progress for both of these drivers. And who knows, maybe all those hosted practices have been paying out for Lowendick, because I need to explain that. So Ted Lowendick hosts and has some practice sessions he keeps open for all league members, usually on Mondays, and he calls them hosted practices. And I love that.
I get what he's doing now. That's cute. As we ride on board, looking back at that chasing Ford. I'm keeping half an eye on this on our viewer's screen, and then on my screen, I'm keeping half an eye on Paulo Munoz, who's still chasing Rodrigo Mies and has kept it within half a second, our 2 leaders. Now, they're not fighting right now. This is the closer battle that we've got on screen currently, but I'll definitely give a shout if that starts to erupt. A little bit of a peek down to Villeneuve, but nothing doing from Eduardo Gotch.
Yeah, but he gets a good exit here. Does he try inside into Tosa? No, he goes outside. Very late on the brakes. You can see that Ford wiggling and gets a good exit around the outside. That is a very slippery corner, but he manages to stay alongside, coming very close. Ted is trying to be a little bit naughty, trying to squeeze Eduardo out, but Eduardo going to the outside into Piratella and decides, you know what, nah. Yeah, nah. But he still stays actually on the extra on the outside, and this is inside into Aqua Minerale, and oh, a little bit of contact there, but Ted does a great job saving it. Unfortunately for him, Eduardo getting through, but that was a close call and really close to a major incident.
Eduardo saying, you're not making a Montoya out of me, and just forces his way through up into that 10th spot. Meanwhile, in 6th place, Eisler has managed, or well, no, is actually defending from Skorek. I thought maybe he'd gotten by Ross. No, he's lost touch with him. And Don Skorek, who has a good slipstream, is starting to gain the Ferrari, looking to overtake the Porsche here. And they're coming up to a great place to do it. Into Tamburello. He's closing, but I don't think he's got enough straight away. And indeed, he's not even going to poke his nose out.
No, not at all. He's going to focus on the exits. You can see Eisler losing a little bit of time to the guys in front. Bruno Asturi, Michael Ross, and Asturi is pulling a great pace at this moment. So no wonder Eisler struggling a little bit, especially on the chicanes. And you can see Squirrel just being a little bit more comfortable with his car at this moment. But I'm looking at Don, and I'm wondering if his setup is a little bit too tight for today's race, because you can see him on the exit of Villeneuve there, for example. He's pushing a little bit wide, and I'm watching that Ferrari, and I'm just not seeing it, turn naturally into the corners. Once again, you can see here, he had to get off the throttle a little bit on the exit of Piratella. So that's going to be something that's gonna come even more of an issue. That's gonna become an even more of an issue once you run right behind someone like he is at the moment. The dirty air, it's doing its dirty tricks to Don Skurek right now, but he has the pace definitely to at least challenge Eisler here.
Track kind of notorious for that. Drivers getting stuck behind one another. Seem to recall another famous Italian racer that had a term that I'm sure he wishes was not associated with him. Start to form here, the infamous Truly train. Thankfully, don't have that quite yet, though Skorek is still bottled up behind him. They do have Pfeffer back there, so we could see one form. This is looking a little bit better. Skorek, once again, using that hole in the air that the big Porsche is punching. It's so much taller than that Ferrari when you see them with the camera looking forward like this. This time he does take a little bit of a look, and he isn't able to capitalize on it. He is not the highest Ferrari at one of their home tracks here. That currently belongs to Munoz. Oh, this will be a brave one if he goes for it into Villeneuve. Not brave enough. He's going to stay in line.
Yeah, he had that little bit of a contact on lap number 1 at Alta, and maybe Skurek has that in the back of his mind at the moment. Not he's going alongside, he's showing intent definitely to Eisler, and he's forcing Eisler to do something that's gonna really cost him as the race goes on, and that is forcing Christian to brake later into the corners in order to not fall into hands of Don. So that's gonna wear out his tires, that's gonna make his tires overheat. And as the race goes on, braking later and later and later, at some point you're gonna hit the limit. And once you go over that limit, there is very little apart from that 2-foot save that you can do to save that car anymore. Because braking, it's kind of a, it's not something that you can take increased risks indefinitely. Once you brake too late, you brake too late. There is nothing you can do that at that moment. You're either running wide and not hitting anything and just losing a position, which is the best case scenario. Or worst case scenario is that you try to brake even harder and you lose the back end, and the next thing you're gonna hit is a wall. And I'm telling you, in a fight between a Porsche and a wall, the wall usually wins.
Typically. So, well, who's going to win this fight, though? Ooh, this is looking good for Skorek. Depending on how brave he is, he's closing very fast, and once again, he runs out of road as they finally hit the binders down into Tamburello. You mentioned something before the race about the curbs, and that the Ferrari seems to be a little bit more compliant. How is that going to affect this battle between a Porsche and a Whoa! Is that a bobble there from the Porsche, actually, of Eisler?
No, I mean, it was Skurek just turning earlier into the corner and giving me the perfect answer. He can take curves that Eisler cannot take at this moment. You can see Skurek just turning a little bit earlier into the first apex of Villeneuve, for example, and you can maybe see him get a little bit more adventurous with the curbs at Alta. And what is that gonna do to him? Well, he can either try a late braking move into the corner, or he can focus on a good exit from here and try it into the Vatsa. And if he's a clever man, he's focusing on the ladder at this moment. Watch him here. Eisler gonna turning nice and early, and yeah, Skurek this time he misses the second apex, but he can take those maybe a little bit more, as well as the ones at Tamburello, and that's gonna give him a little bit more options where he chooses his lines. And he doesn't have to be quite so accurate in the corner, and he can also, just shortcut it a little bit, make himself a straighter line, and as a result of that, get himself a good exit. But one more point I want to add, that Skurek right now, what he's suffering from the most is probably higher wing than Eisler has, because the Ferrari shouldn't have any problems in straight line speed. What he has problems with is both the lack of straight line speed in terms of car setup and a little bit of understeer. And both of those hint towards a higher downforce setup, which is more rear wing, because that's the only downforce you can adjust here.
Okay, we have an odd situation with Matt Hilton, the 09 car. I think he's got it cleared out now, but he got himself stuck kind of back behind the scenes. There he is right there on screen. This happened just now in Alta. We get a replay on this spin that seems to have kind of put him between a rock and a hard place. Here's the incident. He's coming up to Alta now. He's the green and black BMW that you see. He's going to spin the car. Now he tries to correct it here, but he he pulls back into where there's no escape.
I know what he's doing there. Matt Hilton, he's scouting for a place to build a hotel.
I see where you went there. The old nine returns once again to the track, but a lot of time lost from that maneuver, and he's down into 21st because of it.
And look at Ross and Asturi here on P number 4 and 5 as well, because Asturi and Ross, they're coming closer and closer. Asturi is starting to lose a little bit of ground here. He's getting good lap times, but this lap will not be so good. Ross is right up to him, coming up to the Vatsa now. At the exit, Ross lost a little bit of time, so not quite as close as he was looking into that corner. Behind them as well, Skurak getting closer once again into Iser, and I think this is the best on yet. Yeah, he's alongside.
Ooh, and you're right. He's going to go through. We didn't quite see it on screen as we were riding on board with Asturi, but indeed, Squirek manages to overtake. And there you see at the back of the shot that Christian Eisler has already fallen to 7th.
Yeah, and as they come into the first corner, into Tamburello, you can see it on the main straight. As soon as Gudak pulls alongside, look at Eisler and look at what he does here. They come into the corner here. Eisler is on the outside and he's just braking nice and early and he's almost letting Gudak have the position. So he's not fighting that too hard. He knew that Gudak has more pace at this moment. And I think he's also showing his racecraft here, identifying the situation between Asturi and Ross maybe. You know, that they maybe shouldn't fight with each other. Instead, there could be a top 5 in cards for them if they play their cards right, or play their hand right. I shouldn't say hand, shouldn't I? Maybe? Yes?
Play your hand right. That's the right way to put it. So let's jump back down behind them. We were watching this fight before. It's between Gotch and Lowendick. However, the Hog, they're in 12th. He's joined them. Now it's a 3-car battle, and they're coming up to Alta here with Gotch in his Ford, being chased by Lowendick in a Ferrari, and Nick is racing in a Porsche. So we've got 3 of the 4 different makes represented. We've already seen how 2 of them battle against each other, and Lowendick, who's got a great run, coming up to Ravazza, decides not to take it, even though he was right underneath that rear wing.
Oh, and that's Gotch as a result of that, locking up his brakes a little bit as he's trail braking into the corner. He manages to get away with it because Ted wasn't able to just, put that into good use. There was no overtaking spot there. But you saw him maybe getting a little bit overheated with his tires is Eduardo. Lowendick gonna go alongside him. And Uydehag just gonna follow them through turn number 1, taking the middle lane. And once again, Eduardo braking very late, but he's gonna be heading into Villeneuve.
So I thought he would, because I figured that Ted's gonna have the better exit, but not the case. Gotch still well gapped in front of him, so no opportunity into that second chicane. Now they head up to Tosa. Sometimes a passing spot, but not this time through. What about the exit? We've seen drivers try to use that to good advantage. All 3 of them are going to stay equidistant from one another. Hard to see an advantage between them at this point.
No, not at all. And I think Nick is just content staying behind them. Eduardo being a little bit more aggressive with his car. And maybe Ted is realizing that, hey, Eduardo's being aggressive. He's going to come to me at later point in this race. There's no point pressure. No point, forcing anything at this moment. Just keep applying pressure and see if he cracks, because they got a big gap ahead of them to Ignacio Hortal, and they got a bit of gap behind them as well to Luis Pime Jr. So Ted is not in a position where he has to do something right at this moment in time. He can wait. He has the most valuable resource that a racing driver could have, and that's time.
Well, that patience seems to have paid off for a number of drivers already, because I was just looking at our situation with retirees. We've already lost 6 cars out of our 28 starters. That's a fair chunk for the first half of the race. Brea, Russo, Ruiz, Rimkus, Nunn and Alonso are both in pit lane getting repairs, but they've been in a long time. Not sure if we're going to see them back. This is Nick Uttahag in pit lane, splitting it almost perfectly in half, but this looks scheduled to me.
Yeah, and maybe he is anticipating a bit of battle between Ted and Eduardo in front. as we watch him hitting there. And we should actually go to our leaders briefly here, because Mies and Munoz are coming up to some lap traffic. That's Pablo Uribe, and Uribe didn't give way easily. He's maybe gonna give way into Rivazza. Yes, he is, but this is allowing Munoz to get just a little bit closer here as they move on here onto the main straight. However, I'm not seeing anything too aggressive from Munoz that just yet. And this is interesting. As you mentioned, we have started the pitting game. We have started the strategy game, and I'm wondering what is Munoz's game plan here. Is he gonna follow, which I think he will do, is he gonna follow Mies until Mies will pit and maybe try to jump him on the pit lane? Or is he gonna potentially watch for the traffic, which we might have in the form of Lubo and other guys, in front of him, and then try to get duck out of their way? What is he gonna do at this moment? He's half a second behind the leader. Surely he has to have a battle plan at this point.
Imagine so. And if you're a fan of Rodrigo Mies, you got to be biting your nails a little bit at this point. He's gotten halfway through the race and he's been showing good form. As just as I start to say about that, he goes a little wide out of Tosa. But he's now going to have led most of this race as we are officially past halfway. So can he hold on to that for 30 more minutes to take that checkered flag for the first time this season? He's a little bit out of it in terms of the championship. Oh, and he goes way wide once again, this time out of Aqua Minerale. I think he managed to avoid a slowdown penalty, though.
Yeah, but he definitely got an off track from that one. So, and Munoz cutting quite nicely at the Alta. Now, will he get a slowdown, or can he actually use this one? He's very close, so he's actually using this one. Going into Rivazza, maybe to the inside there would be a brave move. No, he's braking nice and early. Once again, saving a little bit of fuel there.
Very close this time coming out of Rivazza. Is this potentially a chance to attack?
Oh, he spits.
Okay. So he's going to be the first to blink between those two.
And he's anti-stratting him.
This is interesting. This is not something we usually see from the leaders in this series.
No, and he's gonna fall, I think, between Stacey Dunnigan. So between 13th and 14th places. And potentially he can find himself a lot of empty ground there. But yeah, that's a very interesting plan from Mies, because that's not the fastest strategy. Not on paper.
Well,
not at all the fastest.
Okay, so question for you then, because you mentioned Munoz could potentially fuel safe behind him. Could this be a ploy from Mies to ensure that he can't pull that sort of trick on him?
Well, he has already saved a fair bit of fuel. So maybe it could be a ploy, or maybe Mies just wants to get it out of the way, wants to split the strategy. Honestly, I don't think... only thing I can see from Mies is that he wants to avoid having a battle at this point. But look at this. He gets Anderson Schmid right ahead of him, and he has to work his way ahead of Anderson before he does anything else. But after that, he's actually got some clear air to Louis Baim Jr. and to Ted Lowendick. So, after he gets past Schmid, he could be in a very good situation to put those hot laps in. However, he's losing time because he's not pulling any he's not getting those laps in with the light car, and he's not as accurate with his fuel calculations as he could be with a longer run. And here he is alongside Anderson Schmid, and Schmid is being nice and compliant and just lifting away to our former race leader. So Mies then finding himself in a lot of empty space, and this will give our current race leader, Paulo Munoz, some options. Does he go all the way to the end, or does he try to counter-strat what Mies pulled there?
So we've got Paulo on screen now, our leader of the race, with a 3-second lead over Abner Acosta currently. Acosta doesn't appear to be a threat, but little mistakes could change that around. He is at least within reach that if he can shake something out of the 3-2-1 car, that could certainly give an opportunity for the number 5 to sneak another win in. Out of Tosa and up the hill one more time for Paulo Munoz, expecting him to go a few more laps at the least to run it long, like most of the drivers tend to do in this series. Naturally, Mies is our highest pitter currently. The next car down, Mies is in 11th, by the way, is Lucas Bacigalupo in 17th. Quite a few cars back. Not very many takers for the strategy that Mies is employing.
No, and that's just natural because once, as I mentioned, that's not the fastest strategy, not on paper at least. So I'm interested to hear and see what Mises' end game will be in this particular race, or if he has one. And by the way, this is an excellent point to remind all our viewers that if you want to compare the lap times, which you should, between Paulo Munoz and Rodrigo Mies in their pit lane strategy battle, you can do so. Check out our live timing and scoring at gsrc.tv. That's gsrc.tv, and you can find all your information from there, including pit stop times, pit lane times, and all the other stuff. Speaking of pit stop times, 17.8 seconds for Rodrigo Mies as Abner Acosta takes to the lane.
Squirrek, again, very unexpected from our drivers. And well, we put the question forward at the start if alternate pit strategy would serve drivers better than just trying to slug it out on track. And apparently, a few do think that is the case. So, as the number 5 gets his fuel topped up, he's going to be easily overtaken by Rodrigo Mies, who's, or at least I think he will. Mies is coming down the front stretch right now. As Acosta out, he's just getting to the cones. It's going to take him a bit to get up to speed. This actually might be rather close. Here comes Rodrigo Mies. And I'd say that he gained a lot of ground. Abner Acosta is suddenly all over our former leader.
Yeah, and Rodrigo Mies, the reason for that, he had a 2 second slower stop. You know, his stop was 2 seconds slower than the other guys who had pitted so far, 2 to 3 seconds. So he was spending a lot of extra time in that lane, on top of the fact that he couldn't get those fast laps in with the light car. So that's what that's gonna do for him. But if Acosta at this moment in time is all over him, and Acosta was like 4 seconds back last we checked, and Acosta all over him, what's that gonna do in comparison to Munoz? Well, Munoz is gonna be with short mats 3 or 4 seconds ahead.
In right now. So we're going to find out exactly what this is going to mean. Wow. So this is fascinating. Mies, once again, could be throwing a chance at a win out the window as Munoz has to trundle a long ways to get to his stall. Asturi followed him. Ross, Eisler. I think this is the end of the pit window as we're seeing most of the drivers coming down the lane. Mies is still our highest pitter, but not by a lot compared to Abner Acosta, who is less than a second behind. Munoz out of his stall. He's on his way. It takes a long time to get from the first pit stall to the cones. Here is our former leader, Rodrigo Mies. Will he inherit it back, or is Munoz got him? I think Munoz has got him.
By a long shot, yeah, Munoz is already in the 200 marker as Mies is following him, and all of a sudden we find the gap between those guys. It's 3.5 seconds, exactly what we predicted, Joe. And you know, a couple of laps early, it wasn't many laps, but it was enough to give Munoz a significant advantage, and furthermore, give Mies some pressure in the form of Abner Acosta.
Last of the cars finish up their stops. Believe Utretas and Matt Hilton will be the final two to take their fuel and get ready to finish the 60-minute event. We've got pretty much our order set now, and if you're going to overtake, you got to do it the hard way. Munoz is now our leader after the pit stops, and quite a difference between himself and Rodrigo Mies, who led the first half of this race. 3.2 between them. And then
Yeah,
third, it's Acosta still.
yeah, so 15.3 second stop for Paulo Munoz, 17.8 seconds for Rodrigo Mies, 14.9 for Abner Acosta. 2.5 seconds. That's not easy time to gain on track. That's more than Mies managed to gap to Munoz during the entire duration of that first stint. So that's time he will not get back. Now the interesting question will be, what is Rodrigo Mies' pace? He doesn't have to save fuel. He has more than enough fuel in that car right now, that's for sure. Maybe a little bit of extra even. So he has the security. He has 2.9 seconds between himself and Paulo Munoz. So, it's gonna be very interesting to see how fast can Rodrigo go, because I don't think he's wanting to let that win slip away from him. Not now. He's closer than ever.
We're watching the battle between Pime Jr. and Eduardo Gotch. This is for P12. Gotch has unfortunately fallen off of Lowendick, who he was fighting with before. Now, he's not that far up the road, but it's about a second and a half between them. That is Lowendick in the dark Ferrari. The Ford, the red and blue Ford of the Ford Gotch, trying to hold off Pime down the front stretch. Luis looking like he might have a good run. I don't know if this is going to be a long enough straightaway, but he's tempting fate and then decides better of it.
Yep, nothing doing there, so decides to wait for another chance, for a better chance. They still got time, mind you. It feels like the end portion of this race, but we still got 20 minutes left. So you still have one third of a race distance to go. And that means for a lot of these guys, that means opportunities that will come, and opportunities also to showcase their pace now that they don't have to think about fuel saving anymore, at least hopefully not. But one guy I want to mention right now, once again, Rodrigo Mies. Do you know why? Because he is pulling away from Abner Acosta slowly but surely. And this is a little bit surprising to me.
That is curious. Got a good overtake as well. Nick Utahag managed to get by the car of Anderson Schmidt into Tamburello. Almost a little bit of a power move here as we pull up the replay. He is going to get the inside of the first apex, but the job is not done. And he holds on to watch this. The BMW makes him sweat for it. And just barely avoiding contact, he powers his way through.
Yeah, some good driving between the two drivers there. That's excellent respective driving. Not an easy corner sequence to go wide. You can easily, just give up the battle basically and go a little bit, give a little bit too much room, and as a result of that, sacrifice the position or not trust the other guy, in which case you're going to give the position easily. But both of those guys had enough pace and enough consistency as we once again battle for P number 12 between Gash and Luis Pime Jr. And they're going to go alongside each other into Tamburello. Are we going to see a repeat? Yes, we will. However, this time Gash holds onto that position. Pime Jr., however, has a chance into Villeneuve, but it's blocked off.
Covers that inside just to be safe so that Pime doesn't try something risky. So the pressure is now on for Eduardo if he wants to stay in this 12th position from his 20th starting spot on the grid. He could have a good prize for him at the end. He's going to try and deny him of that. They climb up towards Piratella. Not really a passing chance for him this time. Still, he's going to stay in the tire tracks of that Ford. Make sure he fills his mirrors.
Yeah, and well, that is indeed quite intriguing. This is a battle for P number 12, but do you know what they call the battle between Eminem and Esham?
You've lost me.
The battle for Detroit.
All right then, so back to the racing on track as
Yes.
we watch Gotch continue to have to play defense and losing track of Lowendick with he doesn't have to play defense anymore. The 17 cracked under his own pressure. The BMW goes around in Ravazza with 17 minutes left to go and a lot of time lost as he has to get it going.
Yeah, and what happened there was Luis Pime Jr. caught himself braking a little bit too late behind Gotch and, just braking harder and harder and harder, trying to go straight, trying to save it, and just spins around instead. Into the corner, cannot save it, but the fortunate thing is that he didn't hit anything. So you got that one correct. As we are once again moving into our leader, Paulo Munoz, and last time by, Munoz did a... Actually, what was his last time? Yeah.
39.6 I've got on my screen, yeah.
Yeah, 39.6, here we go. And behind him, you got Rodrigo Mies, and he was a little bit slower later, 39.8, so not catching him as fast as he wants to. And those 2 tenths are gonna feel a little painful, but both of them right now going at an excellent pace. Munoz improves even more, 39.5. What is Mises' response? 39.8 once again. So Munoz, once he got into clear air and managed to get his tires back under him, he is flying.
I wonder if we could pull up the laps between Acosta and Asturi, though. Remember, this is the championship battle for our top two in the points. And Acosta currently holds the edge both in the tables and here on the track right now. But Asturi, I'm looking at the times, and it seems like he's starting to reel him in. Here it is on screen. So obviously, the pit stops are going to screw those first two up there in lap 22 and 23. But look at that. Bit by bit, he's chopping away a big chunk on lap 25, in fact.
Yeah, 3/10 of a second, and putting a little bit of mental pressure at least on his teammate Abner Acosta. But the gap is over 6 seconds, so it's not gonna be something easily caught during the last 15 minutes of the race. However, it's gonna be something that Acosta has to be aware of when he's looking, and of course, because he's still trying to catch up to Mies, he's trying his best to do that. And meanwhile, he knows that his teammate is managing to somehow go even faster. It can go into your head. So Acosta, he has championship experience. He has potential to be really, really great. And he has already shown that in this series in the past. So, he can't let it get into his head and he can't focus on that battle behind him. But yeah, you were right. Asturi is on a great pace at this moment. I believe he's actually the fastest man to the track last time by. He could be, because Munoz went 39.9 this time. Rodrigo Mies 39.5.
Yeah, so Paulo Munoz lost a little bit of time to Rodrigo Mies as well. The 3-2-1 with a 39.9 compared to Mies's 39.5. And Mies definitely looks like he's pushing. I was watching him out of Ravazza, and that car was squirming all over the place. He's got to be careful, though, that he doesn't wear out those tires by the end. The temperatures have continued to go up. We haven't looked at them since the start, but it's already up to 84 degrees Fahrenheit. I believe that's actually close to 10 degrees Fahrenheit hotter than what we started.
Yes, and that's 29 degrees Celsius. It was 25 degrees when we started, 29 degrees Celsius now. You're right, it is getting hotter and hotter in here. And that compared with the tires wearing out and the track getting more and more slippery, well, that's going to make interesting times for these drivers. And as we thought about times and talk about times and keep talking about them, I mentioned earlier on Munoz getting 2 tenths away and 2 tenths away from Mies, and Mies catching up 4 tenths last time by, so he equalized the situation. And that's something Munoz will know. And Munoz will know wherever he makes a mistake that, hey, Mies will continue to capitalize on that. So these last 13 minutes of this race, there are going to be some nail-biting stuff. And I think this time by, once again, it is going to be Mies who's going to be faster. Let's see the confirmation. Paul Munoz, 39.86, and Rodrigo Mies, 39.4.
Well, I hope he's not paying attention to the times, because that's going to be a big distraction for him right now. He needs to focus forward. So we are on board with Rodrigo Mies, still chasing his first win of the season, now halfway through this season of the PRL GTE Sports Car Series, taking every inch of track that he can to run down Paulo Munoz up at the top, who stole the first place away in the pit stops in this series, or in this race today. So I'm sure he's hungry to try and reclaim that, knowing that he had the number on him for most of the first part. This is almost, I'd say, classic Imola that we're seeing right here. It's not necessarily an all-out slugfest side-by-side racing. It is a nail-biter pressure cooker situation between drivers.
Yeah, and just to give an idea of how fast those lap times are, Munoz and Mies, our two leaders, they were the only ones who went under 140 last time by. In fact, Mies was 8 tenths faster than Acosta and Asturi behind him. He was a full second faster than Michael Ross in 5th place. That just goes to show you how on a different level the two leaders, Munoz and Mies, and especially Mies, operate at this moment. But Munoz, he is no slouch. We're gonna get updates this time by. Is Munoz gonna fight back? Coming across the line, 139.69 and Rodrigo Mies 139.50. So another 2 tenths away from the gap. But Munoz too, he is pushing even harder as they start to come across some lap traffic in the form of Horacio Calguin soon. And now I don't want to suggest anything, but Calguin is Mies' teammate.
Yeah, that's Punto CL car up there, so it always makes you maybe get a little bit wary as you approach them and you see those colors of the car that you're chasing suddenly on the lapped car as well. Interesting to note, you talked about how hard the front drivers are pushing. The top eight are all within about 30 seconds of each other. And then you go back to ninth to Ignacio Hortal. It's a 17-second gap. So there's kind of a haves and haves nots in terms of speed here today. But the back half of the field has fallen away greatly from the drivers up at the front. And that is good sportsmanship there from Cal Quinn.
Yes.
He's just pulled over and let them both by.
Yeah, that's the correct thing to do at this moment. Oh, look at how much Mies. You saw it on the back first shot briefly. Mies was absolutely annihilating the Alta chicane, and he caught, I think, 10th, even more, to Paulo Munoz. And here you can see it again as they get past. You can see it on board of him. Look at him just bounce over those curves. Bump and bump.
My goodness.
That's like West Coast rap video.
I I was thinking more it reminds me of the Pro 2 light trucks taking around some of these rally cross courses. Just does not have a care about what is in front of the car and tries to take the straightest line. It is down to 2 seconds now. That lap, a 39.3 for Mies compared to the 39.6, 3/10 of a second faster on that lap through, and 9 minutes to go.
This is absolutely brilliant stuff. Mies is absolutely showing why he has that pace, why he's so highly regarded by his competitors, by his teammates, and by us here in the commentary booth as well. Rodrigo Mies just goes to show how much talent he truly has for race car driving, because this is really what racing is all about to me. Not necessarily the slugfest. You want to see the battles for position, of course we do, but this two drivers showcasing what they can do with these cars on the same track in a BOP machinery. No excuses, nothing. Just two men battling it out and may the best man win. And in this case, we don't know who it might be. And Mies, he's like a hungry shark, just sliding a little bit sideways at the exit of Alta and trying to catch on to that leader as we briefly go on to watch another battle, and that is for the 11th place.
Dick catching back up to Gotch now as we watch the two cars fight for P11 and P12. They come out of Tosa. We are on board with Lowen Dick. It is Ferrari giving chase to a Ford. Speaking of which, Munoz, I mentioned it earlier, he's in a Ferrari, and I know they're not real fans, but how appropriate would it be if the Ferrari can take a win here today at Imola? Form of Paulo Munoz. Still chasing down this number 45, 72. Closes well coming through Aqua Minerale. Not well enough that he can take a lunge up into Alta, but certainly closed ground.
Yeah, even more appropriate as we watch them getting very close to the exit of Alta. Yeah, even more appropriate would be since this track's name, full name, Autodromo Enzo e Dino Ferrari, and I don't think it needs a translation show.
Exactly. There's a little bit of a bias in the people around here, and there's no secret about it. Off the corner, a big mistake, though, from the Ford, and Gotch hands it over to Ted Lowendick, who is now into 11th with that.
Yeah, and that's a shame. That's a shame for Gotch, losing another position there. So ending up in 12th place and Lowendick 11th as a result of that. And they got a big gap ahead of them, so that's going to be their end game battle. I'm looking at the gap behind them, and Louis Palm Jr. are 7 seconds behind. So yeah, that's going to be between the two until the end of this race, but that's going to be a big mental advantage to Ted Lowendick as we should go on back to our second place man. And here he is, Rodrigo Mies. Look at the gap ahead of him. He's starting to get dropped sooner than later. And it's no longer, it's at this point where you barely need measurement anymore, Joe. You can see it on your screens. They are no longer at a hot lapping distance. They are soon at the battling distance.
The previous lap, there's a 3/10 difference. This time through 39.2 for Mies and 39.6, 4/10 difference. So that gap is getting even more distinct between their lap times. It's growing. He's catching him at a higher rate here is Mies. That's going to put even more pressure on Paulo Munoz. And there's more implications in this than just the win for Paulo. He's 21 points behind Acosta and Asturi. Now, he's still going to get points over them, but I'm sure he would love to try and cut this down as much as possible with both Abner and Bruno holding third and fourth and trying to take the top spot as we ride on board through Piratella. It's down to 1.2 seconds, 1.1 seconds. Munoz can't be giving up on the championship quite yet. He needs this win to get into it. Maybe it's a critical mistake in Aquaman O'Reilly. He goes wide, and that is going to allow Rodrigo Mies to snatch that lead back. Could this be the victory that the 88 has been looking for all season long?
That was an heartbreaking mistake from Munoz, but what a moment for Rodrigo Mies. I think he was coming into the corner, seeing the Ferrari very wide and just thinking, okay, is he gonna give me room? Yes, he did. Great job from Munoz, not pulling any desperate blocks, and now the situation has reversed. It's suddenly Rodrigo Mies running away once more after that pit stop drama, after the strategy. Rodrigo Mies definitely lost out there. He had a 3.5 second gap to pull back. We were already pulling our hairs here, thinking, well, our non-existent hairs in this case, thinking that Rodrigo Mies, there's a little chance that he gets back. But he went on to show one of the greatest chasing performances I've seen in a while and has regained the race lead. Now the question is, Joe, can he hold on?
Because Munoz certainly not going to let him run away with things if he can help it. He's going to have a little bit of the slipstream, but before he didn't seem to have the raw pace. He might have to get a little bit tricky. He might have to use the lap traffic, which they do have coming up in front of them in the Rodriguez. But he's only got, from my estimation, about 3 more laps to try and get back by. As they come down towards Aquaman O'Reilly, boy, I bet Mies is hoping that they catch Rodriguez on the front stretch, because this is not a good part of the track to try and catch this lap traffic.
No, but I think Ken Rodriguez, he's one of the serious organizers, one of the cleanest drivers out there. I think he realizes the situation and will act accordingly. Maybe giving room here, or he's going to be confident that he's going to be fast enough through Rivazza and then giving them room on the main straight. Equal playing field. However, it's playing slightly into the hands of Rodrigo Mies in a sense that Mies will now get a bit of draft on the front straight and potentially eliminate one passing chance from Paulo Munoz. And look at how wide Munoz was, just throwing up a little bit of dirt at the exit of the last corner, at the exit of Rivazza, and trying to maximize it, but no chance there. And Rodriguez communicating that, go by, guys, go by. At the next straight, potentially.
I heard him say, I'm not going to pull over, but I think that was finished with, obviously not going to fight them. As they come out of Tamburello, he's not giving way quite yet. This is bad news for Mies. Great news for Munoz, because I think he's going to gain a little bit of ground potentially here. There's more communication from Rodriguez. There he goes. Nicely done. He's going to let this battle by, but it will compromise both of them slightly. Looks like Mies have a little bit of trouble getting the racing line going in and then going out. It's Paulo Munoz, who had a compromised exit. White flag next time by. Chances are running away from Paulo Munoz. He's still got a second place. He's still got points over his rivals. But again, the same mistake in the same corner. Paulo Munoz going wide, and I think that is the race right there. Mies just has to cruise home from here.
That is such a difficult corner to get right to, because you're coming in so hot with these worn tires at the first part. It's almost flat out. You downshift maybe a little bit heading into the first part, or maybe you stay in 5th gear, and then you have to brake while just recovering from a downhill fast right corner. You're recovering and you're braking into the second apex. It's an uphill corner, and it's surprisingly fast. You have to get the car turned in really tight in there. So no wonder he's making mistakes. But Munoz, right now, he is looking pretty weak in this battle. He needs a mistake from Rodrigo Mies. And in this race, apart from strategy, those mistakes, they have been few and far between. Rodrigo, look at him go, and I must say, actually, I'm not jinxing anything, Joe.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I said at the start of the broadcast that this track seems to produce breakout victories and interesting strategy calls. And what do you know? Rodrigo Mies, who we've been waiting all season long to be able to capitalize on his pace, is looking the closest he's ever been to finally taking a victory. And I think that's ever in this series, if I'm not mistaken. I don't believe
It
he's
is.
won
It
in
is.
GTE cars.
Yeah, the man from Santiago in Chile, the owner of the fastest Nissan Vida in Chile, man with some real life racing experience as well. Never won in PRL GTE, has been on the podium multiple times, has been in a position where he could maybe win multiple times, but never has he ever been fortunate enough to bring it home, taking it nice and steady last lap. Look at him just being very careful through the chicanes, trying to maybe play it safe and play it sure. He knows that Munoz will not catch him to the line and show Rodrigo Mies. It's an absolute holiday for him and his battalions of fans.
Here in Imola and Italy, it's not going to be the Ferrari on top, but it's still a feel-good story for Rodrigo Mies as he finally wins here in the PRL GTE Sportscar Series. Munoz follows him home to second. And how about Abner Acosta? More points not only brought home for his championship hopes, but over his rival Asturi, who finished.
And meanwhile, we got a battle for P number 11. Eduardo has once again caught up to Ted. It's Lowendick versus Gosh. And Gosh is trying to catch up to him. And Ted makes a bit of a mistake, exiting Aqua Minerale, getting a little bit loose, having to defend the inside line. Gosh, he had to lift off there to avoid hitting him. And this is going to be mighty close heading into Rivazza. However, Ted is able to use that Ferrari and its better curb jumping potential to at least make a bit of a safe space for him before they head onto the last corner, but it's all gonna be down to the exit from here, Joe.
Actually, the loss of speed for Ted looked like it was something of a gotcha for Eduardo. Now they're onto the front stretch, and Ted, as he comes to the line, looks like he's got it. It's going to be 11th place from 22nd on the grid for Lowendig. Fantastic battle between those two. And the last of our battles is the rest of the drivers are streaming to the line on the lead lap. Only 16 of our 28 starters on the lead lap after all of that. So we're going to go to break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. If you watch on screen, you're going to see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. legendary Imola circuit in Autodromo Enzo e Dino Ferrari. Officially, but all race fans know this place as just Imola. And Rodrigo Mies took his breakout victory that we were wondering who could possibly get it today. It's been a long time coming for the very fast driver. The number 88 wins over Paulo Munoz by a scant 6/10 of a second. Paulo leading part of the second half of the race, but his own mistakes twice costing him, and he settles for second. Abner Acosta, though, was behind him, so he will gain at least a little bit of ground on that championship leader. Third place for Abner, and just off the podium, Bruno Asturi. Mysteriously, not really much of a factor today, especially late in the race. Michael Ross was P5 with Don Skorek in sixth position. Christian Eisler just didn't have the race pace. Qualifying was fantastic with fourth. He fell to seventh in the end, with Christopher Pfeffer finishing P8. Lucas Bacigalupo was ninth, and running out the top 10 was Ignacio Portal.
Indeed, Ted Lowendick making one of the heart-charging performances of the race from 22nd to 11th in the end, beating out Eduardo Gash for who finished 12th. Then Luis Palm Jr. 13th, Nick Uitehag 14th after an interesting race, Stacy Danigan 15th, Anderson Schmidt 16th, and last driver on the lead lap, Pablo Valenzuela Uribe 17th. Then we got four drivers one lap down, Ken Rodriguez, Horacio Calvin, Matt Hilton, and Miguel A. Lopez Reyes from 18th to 21st, and your list of retirements, Utreras, Espinosa, Nunn, Rimkus, Ruiz, Russo, and Rivas Brea. So those are your final standings of this event and show. It was quite an exciting race and in a lot of ways a typical Imola race, I would say.
I'd agree on that one. And we do have our second place finisher, Paulo Munoz, ready to talk to us. But this one's probably got to sting a little bit. Paulo, you had managed to jump Rodrigo in the pit stops. It looked like you had a good lead. And then he was reeling you in and reeling you in. Is that what caused the mistakes? Did you feel the pressure too much, or what was it?
It wasn't that. Hi guys. First of all, it wasn't that much the pressure, but the last 5 4 laps, the car uh, just I just ran out of tires. I think he was so much faster than me after the pits, and there was just nothing I could do. I think out of the last corner, he was 0.2, 0.3 faster per lap. So I was just a passenger, seeing him coming there.
That is unfortunate. We were watching, and it was honestly going to be a feel good story no matter which of you managed to win today. Uh, but you had mentioned to me before the race that you've joined a new team, Pure Sim Racing, I believe. Uh, what elicited the move, and are you excited about the new teammates?
I am very excited. I still love the guys at RSR. They're all good friends of mine, and I can only wish them the best. But I felt it was time for a move, and it all just like sort of played out in this season because I'm working with Josh Thompson from Williams Esport on preparing the races for this league, and he's good friends with the guys at Pure Sim Esport. Uh, so yeah, it all just came together. Started talking with him, and then they sort of invited me in a way.
I'm sure that was an exciting moment for you when they asked you to come into the fold. Now, you still gained some points on both Acosta and Asturi, who you're chasing, but it's still a pretty big margin between you. With half the season left to go, is it possible for you to reel them in?
I'm gonna try at least. I mean, Abner, as we all know, he doesn't make mistakes. That's why he's won this 3 times, I think. Uh, so he's gonna take things like races like today, where he's not on pace, or a couple of these at least, or a crash from him to meet for me to catch up. It's gonna be very tough, but I'm gonna push really hard and try.
Look forward to seeing if that becomes a three-way fight for the championship. Again, congratulations on a podium, and hope to see you at the next round.
Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for streaming this.
Paulo Munoz, second place today. And up next, Aussies caught up with third place finisher Abner Acosta.
Hey Abner, congratulations for the podium. And first of all, well, you guys were pretty close to each other at the start, but not at 1 and 2, which we were maybe expecting. Was this a more difficult track for you guys than, for example, the ones we saw earlier on in the season?
Hey guys, good evening. Yeah, I think well for me, this Saturday, Sunday, I decided I had this great idea to get a whole rig. So I went from an office chair with a table to a rig, and I'm sitting completely different. Everything's different. So since I sat on it on Saturday, Sunday, I was like 5 seconds off the pace, and I've been trying to, I guess, get my rhythm back on this, and it hasn't been good. But I guess Bruno wasn't doing that well either, so maybe it was the track, and not as much as the whole new setup. But yeah, it was very very tough. Definitely did not have the pace at all. I'm actually, I think I'm lucky to get even a third place finish. Luckily, Bruno made some mistakes, but yeah, overall happy with the finish.
Yeah, and you should be happy with the rig as well. Should bring some great long-term gains. How about the championship then? You were leading by 3 points heading into this event. Now you're leading by some more points. Is that little bit of added security in case Bruno decides to go superhuman in the later half of the season?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I was actually kind of upset. I got 4 X's and I lost my extra point for that. Just because I know I'll need them. And yeah, Bruno just made some mistakes at the beginning, and he was already going superhuman after the pit stops. He was like 5 tenths to 6 tenths faster than me. I thought he was gonna catch me. But yeah, every point at this point, every point that I get matters. And to say that this is the worst result that I've gotten in all this weeks, I guess that's pretty good. But yeah, I'm definitely staying ahead of Bruno. That's the plan.
Yeah, that's definitely the plan if you wanna win the championship. So, anyway, Abner, we are moving next week to Spa and then Road America. Couple of very fast circuits. How are you looking there?
I definitely do like Road America a lot. Not sure about Spa. I'll definitely have to put a lot of practice on that. And again, I'll need to get used to my rig and the sitting position that I'm on now. I'll definitely have to put a lot of laps. I hope I get it back, get back my pace quick because it was a little frustrating today, just not being able to catch anyone at all. So we'll see.
Well, you have a 2 week break to get used to it. Thank you, Abner Acosta, and good luck in 2 weeks.
Thank you guys. Thank you for broadcasting and PRL and everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Joe, I think that's all of our drivers today. Sadly, no winners interview today, but I think Rodrigo will be too busy celebrating to talk to us.
Won't blame him on that front. Certainly seemed like a little bit of a downtrodden Abner Acosta as well. Not something we're used to hearing. So, something to mull on while we've got a 2 week break. And while we're gone, we want to thank our sponsors for this series, of course, starting with Simulation Motorsports Affinity. And if you want to check out how you can get involved with the worldwide sim racing community through them, you can go to simsa.net. Also, to the sponsor of the PRL in general, Butt Kicker. You can find all kinds of awesome products for your rig. Thebuttkicker.com is where their website is. Wonder if Abner might want to get some of those, help his immersion. Maybe that'll give him some speed, I'm sure. Big thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Ossian, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. So check out our social media. Our Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook, Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, check out our merchandise store. We've linked it in the description below. And while you're there, make sure and subscribe to the channel. If you see a big red button that says subscribe, it means you haven't done it yet. All you got to do is click that. The next race, as we mentioned, is going to be over at Belgium, Spa, another classic track in the world of racing from Europe. That'll be Tuesday, July 28th at 9 p.m. Eastern. So don't come back next week because we won't have a race next week. It'll be a bit of a break. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on screen. Check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.